All right, guys, we're gonna go through Prydwen's latest tier list. I've been waiting on this to see what's gonna happen with the update. And a lot of my previous, or I guess a few really, like since we've been talking about season 2 and talking about Yixuan, I made a couple different predictions. The prediction that I made was that Yixuan was gonna be a character that is going to get overlooked in terms of her difficulty or technicality is not gonna be because she's hard to play. It's not like Haramasa, but she is more technical to play than Haramasa because you require more knowledge, right? Like it's on the same caliber. One is execution, which Haramasa is the execution. Yixuan is the knowledge check. The more you know about the game, the more you know about the character, the more you know about your enemy, the patterns, what they can and can't do, what options you have. That is what takes Yixuan from baseline all the way up to the top. When I made that prediction, I said the difference between those two is that Yixuan literally has tits, and that the community would overlook this fact that she would be a much more technical character to play, and they would treat her differently than what Haramasa was treated as when he released. So let's go ahead and jump into what we got going on. Now, what's cool about this is we got a changelog, but they finally changed the DPS. They added a new one. So Zenless 2.0 has brought a lot of changes to the meta, to say the least. A brand new class of agents was introduced, and new characters, W engines, and disk drives along with it, giving build options and team compositions significantly more variety. This is true, we talked about this from the CE server. As a result of this, on top of older agents getting directly buffed, such as Ellen, the meta has been shaken up quite a bit. A fact which you'll notice has caused a lot of changes to the tier list. This is in fact our longest changelog since we went for a close to full overhaul, but we deemed it necessary that along with Zenless Zone Zero Season 2, we make a Prydwen tier list Season 2 as well. We'll go into complete detail, so we recommend you have a look at how the tier list evolved. And if you notice any changes that need further explanation, you check what we individually wrote for them in this changelog. Let's tackle the new category we're adding first, which is secondary DPS. Details on what is factored into their ratings will be found in the criteria and roles section above this changelog. I'm just gonna call this Sub-DPS, it's way easier. Sub-DPS agents cover a particular section of attack and anomaly agents who play a role as a secondary damage dealer in the team. They deal damage in short windows of time and leave the field quickly, often doing damage even while off-field to let the on-field DPS agent shine. In any case, these agents can be summed up to characters with the ability to provide supportive firepower for their teams, whether that is to act purely as a secondary source of damage, or to perform the on-field DPS agent, or to buff the on-field DPS agent, my bad, and apply anomaly all the while if desirable. To go along with this, the DPS category has been renamed to primary DPS. This change was done in light of indicating the ability of certain agents like Yanagi to act as both the primary and secondary DPS of the team depending on the composition, as well as painting the full picture of Zenless Zone Zero 2 team building and playstyles in a clearer manner. They're finally getting on board with what a lot of us creators have been saying in regards to tier lists for a while. And it doesn't matter if it's our tier list, it doesn't matter if it's Prydwen's, but in particular for Prydwen being the current largest source that a lot of players go to for like looking at tier lists and information about the game, it was pivotal that at some point they would have to separate more. And even still, we have defense agents that are in stun categories or support, but they still do both. The way that the characters perform or work in Zenless Zone Zero, not all of them are static. What do I mean by that? We can take Miyabi for example. Miyabi has the potential to be a burst DPS, to be a sub DPS because of her kit and how she operates. And this is a factor because of team building. The more you understand about team building in Zenless Zone Zero, the more you can break the rules. I talk about this all the time. The more you know about something, the easier it is for you to tweak it. The more you know about an equation in math, the easier it is for you to use or break apart that equation for any given problem that you may have. And so if we were to look at the criteria now, I do want to see what they're saying. The average agent damage output within best possible teams, and if applicable, anomaly application / anomaly damage, all of this preferably within the shortest time span possible. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but I understand why they're doing it. The reason why I'm saying I'm not the biggest fan of this particular wording where like how fast they do it is a part of the criteria, like has a major influence on whether or not they would have placed them somewhere, for instance, like Bernice. Bernice doesn't apply burn significantly fast. And Vivian's entire combo, like if you were to do, you do quick assist or defensive assist into her follow-up attack into EX special, she hovers for like a second, then you do cancel into basic attack anyway, and then she hovers again. That entire process is like maybe 5-6 seconds, right? Depending on what you got going on. It also depends on what your primary DPS is doing. And so to see a character like Vivian be in tier 0, that means in their time span that either 5 seconds or 6 seconds is short, which it's not, or Vivian is just like goated, and that's why she's there. Because in Bernice's case, to fill up nitro fuel, Bernice takes what? Burn, 3 seconds top. She's capping it out, you know what I mean? Or at least getting above the 50% line, which is where she wants to be. But let's continue. The medium influence, weight of damage enhancement capabilities relative to average team performance and contribution to highest performing teams. Okay, I can see where this is coming from. Medium influence again, agent team flexibility. How many teams are they effective in and performance of alternative teams? And then minor influence is Shiyu defense. The average agent output, damage output within burst windows, average agent damage output against elite packs, 2 to 3 enemy situations, instead of single target / boss encounters being 1 enemy situation. I guess I could see this being a thing for Shiyu, but you know, especially with going into season 2, we see that this really doesn't matter. I guess maybe against 2 characters, right? Like Palicus, for instance, you would want to be able to affect both and not just one. But that mostly comes down to whether or not you can manipulate Palicus to be close together all the time. Let's at least look at some things here first, and then we'll break down everything. So right now, tier 0, Miyabi is still there. There's no arguing that. There's no reason for anybody to be arguing why Miyabi is where she is. And I'm gonna say it now. Even with the expert tag for Yixuan, she is still not on Miyabi's level. If Yixuan jumps into tier 0, Miyabi needs to get bumped up. I understand that the whole thing is that Yixuan is the anniversary character, and you know, oh, when we get Ju Fufu will be her best in slot, and that'll put Yixuan on the same caliber as Miyabi. Unfortunately, Yixuan is still missing something that Miyabi has access to that no other DPS in the game has. I can do both. I have the ability to manipulate every single anomaly in the game, and I have the most broken anomaly in the game, being freeze. Not only just that, she has her own version of freeze, which is Frostfire, allowing her to get 2 freezes. And this is critical because if we're talking about, and I understand before I even get off on my rants about like high level play, I get that this is more so casual. Even at a casual level, Miyabi smokes Yixuan because of the ability to do these things. Yixuan does not. And with the fact that you have to actually play Yixuan at a high level, an optimal level, right? That's why the expert tag is there. Playing her at that level puts her on the level of Miyabi closing her eyes. Like, oh shit, I close my eyes and I jag out, right? That's Miyabi in tier 0, period. Baseline Miyabi without any crazy tech is tier 0, even without her W engine. And now we have to factor in Yixuan with no W engine, you know what I'm saying? The fact that she doesn't have Ju Fufu, whereas Miyabi works with every single anomaly character in the game, and she can work with a multitude of different attack type characters in the game. It's the same thing as putting Evelyn with an expert tag and then saying that the best played Evelyn is on the same caliber as the best played Miyabi. That's just not true. But this is always what I'm gonna say about Miyabi until we get a Miyabi level character, and Yixuan, fortunately, is not that character. But that doesn't mean she's bad. I'm not saying that by any means. I'm just saying that that's not where she is. Once we get an Aftershock support character, Yixuan probably will be on that caliber from that casual or average player level, right? Just being able to output the damage. If we're looking at it from a damage perspective, then yeah, I think we could go along with that, right? But once we start looking at things as just damage output, it's gonna start creating problems, because now you're gonna have arguments, or rather now you open the door for arguments like Hugo. Hugo is the single strongest character in the game because he one shot, like, right, the damage output he does in a single instance is the biggest that we have in the game. It's huge. Now you're gonna start having arguments. Well, if I just stun 3 times with Hugo and I kill the boss in 3 hits, wouldn't that put him on the same level as Miyabi? Where Miyabi, I would have to press 47 different buttons. With Yixuan, I have to press 82 buttons. But with Hugo, I press 1 button and my damage output is equal or higher than theirs. You can't just leave it as just damage output, which I understand, like, their changelog and their criteria do have the influences for that, but we'll leave it at that for now. That's Miyabi. Vivian, I do agree with this, but I don't agree with Yanagi not being up here. And if anything, personally, I still believe Yanagi is better than Vivian if we're talking about like a tier placement, because Yanagi is the pure anomaly version of Miyabi. If we're talking about why Miyabi is where she is, Yanagi is that other version of her. The things that you can do with this character, she works with every other anomaly character in the game. When it comes to being a sub-DPS character, Yanagi goes up here. She's just too cracked. Polarity disorder, the ability to manipulate that, depending on who you have on your team, is ridiculous. But I understand why Vivian is up here. I'm not even arguing that Vivian doesn't belong in tier 0. I'm arguing that Yanagi belongs in tier 0. Leave Vivian here, she's fine. Vivian's cool. I do believe she's the best off-fielder, but I don't think she's the fastest. Given the fact that, like I said, with Bernice, 1, 2, 3 seconds, I'm filled up. But in Vivian's case, you know, you come out with your assist, so quick assist or defensive assist into your follow-up attack, your basic attack follow-up, right? You cancel that into the EX skill, you cancel that into the flight. Like, that entire combo to guarantee feathers is about 5-6 seconds. That's a pretty hefty time in comparison to Bernice. But maybe we're looking at the damage output and it's a little faster. Now, what's funny, because I've already done the test for this, you guys will be able to see that video once it's finished, if it's not already uploaded by the time this comes out. But Piper Bernice is a little stronger than Piper Vivian because of the way Vivian's feathers work, and you need to use EX skills in order to make it pop. Whereas Bernice, it's tick, 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 right? But you know, Vivian has her poison as well, so it is what it is. Now we go into Lighter, being tier 0. As a stun character, a stun unit, I agree. Lighter at this point, he's getting ice units buffed up and fire units, right? And these two elements are the strongest elements in the game right now, collectively, as a team-wide thing. I can see it. Trigger, I'm gonna keep it a buck. I still believe Trigger is up here just because you don't have to play the character. In fact, if I'm looking at tier 0, press whatever buttons I want, don't have to play the character more than a few seconds, right? Like I just don't have to be on field. Lighter, same thing. If you really look at it, don't have to play the character. You should, but you don't have to. You come out in aura, do an EX skill, and then you're getting whatever it is. Trigger, don't have to play the character. Astra, don't have to play the character. Right now, tier 0 is literally filled with characters that don't actually have to play the game. Like, the player does not have to interact with anything. So on one aspect of this, especially coming from that average player perspective, I get it, I understand it, and I can see why these characters would be valued in tier 0 the way that they are. However, if I'm looking at this and trying to recommend or at least explain some things to players, I would be a little bit more mindful as to explaining why they're in tier 0 the way that they are versus another character who could be equally as strong, but it requires you to actually play the game. And the reason I say that is, of course, because Trigger and Qingyi were in a team where I could use Trigger, obviously not including Sanbi, but in a team where I could use Trigger, I could equally use Qingyi and get the same results. The difference is a lot of players value not playing a team and they want to play a single DPS character. Whereas with Qingyi, you're playing the team. And because you're playing the team, you're afforded more opportunities, more combos, more team rotations, more damage output, if you will, by being able to utilize that. A good example of that, because I see you guys talking about Sokaku for a little bit, this would be like if I were to play Miyabi, Astra, and Vivian, or Miyabi, Astra, and Yanagi, the options that I have, depending on the teams, depends purely on these DPS characters, right? There's not really any team combos per se that I'm doing. And I don't want to say that like these three don't have combos, they do. But there's nothing in the middle besides Astra being able to just swing them in and off the field. Whereas if I played Miyabi, Lycan, and Sokaku, while I still get the same things of being able to swing these characters in and off the field, I gain more from being able to learn or master the team. Double Frost, I get stuns. I still able to get my quick assist with Sokaku, and Miyabi still able to take advantage of any disorders that happen, or being able to gain her stacks in order to do the Shimotsuki stance. But again, that is a very, you know, high level player, advanced shit, whatever, and then average player. So I'm not arguing against one or the other. I'm just explaining the differences between the two. I get that, but that's time you could be spending just dishing out damage instead. Well, that's the thing, right? You are dishing out damage. When you look at it, and this is just to explain it like in general, right? When you understand the team, if you were to go and like watch the Mono Ice team, it's never not dishing out damage. There's always a ton of damage being put on the board. And it's because you play, you learn it, and you play up to a certain speed of the team, right? Like you're able to keep up with the output for the team's damage. And that's kind of your goal. So Kaku comes out and she freezes, right? She swings the big ass fan. You're abusing Miyabi's long animations, or you're abusing Lycan's longer animations, right? He does EX skill 1, 2, 3. You hold it, and then he'll do 1, 2, 3, like high up kick, right? He throws a huge up kick. That animation is just long enough for you to have swapped out, get Sokaku, swing the fan, fly the banner, swing the fan, go back into Miyabi. You know what I'm saying? You're always dishing out damage at these higher levels of play. And so it's not really a matter of like, okay, you play 1, 2, 3. The difference is you don't have Astra crutching out quick assist. And that's why I said earlier, everyone on this top tier 0 row, they're not interacting with the game. Whereas building an actual team that does interact with the game doesn't take away from your damage performance at all. And in fact, most of the time it adds to it, but it is what it is. I do want to see what they're saying about Yixuan real quick. Let's go and look at the changelog, and we can see here. Vivian added as tier 0, explaining briefly. Vivian is the best at her role and provides a big increase in power over Bernice to a lot of teams like Jane and Piper. I definitely agree with that. Well, not the Piper part, but Jane, yes. Hence why we separated the two and let Vivian sit at the top. Remember, characters in different categories are rated within their own category, not with characters in other categories. Good. That's why Yanagi's in 2 different spots. Bernice was added to tier 0.5. I could agree with that. Yanagi was added to tier 0.5. Grace added as tier 0.3. I'm assuming this is for secondary DPS. I'd agree with that. If that is the case, it is what it is. Anyhow, certain characters are also staying in the primary DPS category while being present in the sub-DPS category. That's referring to Yanagi, right? Yeah. Yixuan added as tier 0.5 expert main DPS, also placed on the watch list. We've decided to tread carefully about how we handle placing main DPS characters on the same tier as Miyabi. We'll make something clear. Yixuan is the closest character to Miyabi's power level that we've seen yet. She has a good baseline performance, but much like Miyabi, really high room for optimization via quick swaps during her stun windows. Without question, when fully optimized, Yixuan goes up to Miyabi's level of performance. I don't agree with that at all. I've already explained why, which is why she has the expert tag. We decided to watch list Yixuan to potentially go into tier 0 instead of directly placing her there, because on paper, against a hypothetical enemy that favors neither Yixuan nor Miyabi, Miyabi should still outperform perform ahead of Yixuan, which she does. But to give you guys a firm example of why Miyabi is, I have her revered the way she is, she's always in her own tier. Guzzlord, which is the current Qingyi Defense 7 miasmic boss in Zenless Zone Zero, is 40% ice resistant. It's also supposed to be, right? Miasma is supposed to be the anomaly check, and yet still Miyabi smokes that boss. Something that is supposed to be a good counter or soft check, hard check, whatever term you want to use, versus Miyabi in particular, is still decimated. Miyabi is so strong, she says 40% ice res. Miyabi is so strong, she says, oh, that mechanic is supposed to stop me. GG's get She's crazy cracked out of her mind. Yixuan, even having the ability to, you know, I'm good at offense and defense. I have tons of parries and iframes in my thing. I have 100% defense shred as a Rupture Agent. She still cannot beat or compete with Miyabi. Again, 40% ice res, a mechanic that's supposed to put a stunt to anomaly, and Miyabi is still beating out Yixuan. The boss is supposed to favor Yixuan. Miyabi is still beating her. Like, this is what I want you guys to understand when I say things like this. It's never about like, oh, I favor this character more, or I'm all about high level play. At a baseline, the thing, the monster, the mechanic, whatever that's supposed to stop our top tier is still not stopping our top tier. And then you ask yourself, well, why are they increasing HP? Why are they increasing resistances? Because they made a monster and they can't stop it. Anomaly was already fucked up, and they made a monster based on Anomaly that's more fucked up. And she benefits from both attack type DPS or supports, and she benefits from Anomaly type supports as well. So like, you cannot stop this character. Miyabi is just, if I had to say the word, and I don't like saying it, Miyabi is broken. It is what it is. Now, mind you, like I said, I didn't even mention the high level play shit. What Mo was testing earlier in the Discord and basically stun locking. You can stop Guzzlord from even activating the miasmic shield in the first place. This is very similar to what I talk about with Bringer, or rather what I showed you guys with Bringer. And a lot of people, when they saw that, were like, oh, well, that's just like, it doesn't matter because I want to be able to like get as many points as possible. Coming from the average player, again, like looking at this from the new video that I did where I put myself at the bottom of the barrel. You're looking at average player stats, right? Average player builds, average player mechanics, whatever. They are struggling or trying to get 20K with builds that are not ready for in-game. Giving them the technology, giving them tech, giving them a strategy that guarantees they get 20K within 2 minutes, a minute and a half of playing the game, that is much more valuable than to tell them to just brute force it with raw damage. Because they don't have that. They don't have the stats. They don't have the characters. They don't have the W engines. It's not as easy for them to be able to do that. And if I could, or anybody else could, like, hey, all you have to do is 1, 2, 3 button press, 1, 2, 3 in this order for a minute, and you're guaranteed your 20K. It's much easier to teach them that. The reason I'm bringing all this up is to talk about the Miyabi thing, which I'll try and get the footage, like I said, just like I showed with Bringer, and the fact that Miyabi Seth Yanagi pretty much infinitely stun locks Bringer to the point where you get 20K points in about a minute. The same thing happens with Guzzlord. The difference here is that Guzzlord wants to activate Miasmic Shield. So it's you have a small window of opportunity to not fuck up with keeping him from going into the Miasmic Shield. Now, here's the positive to that. By doing this, even before you even get to the point where you need to do the fuck up, right? You've already shredded 50 to 60% of Guzzlord's HP before his first Miasmic Shield. That's dumb. Dumb in this case is like good, like dummy good, right? Really good, cracked out, whatever. Yixuan is not doing anywhere close to what Miyabi is doing. Mind you, the team that I'm talking about is not a Miyabi Astra team. I know somebody be like, oh, well, obviously you would do that with Astra. Every Miyabi team that I talk about does not include Astra. I don't even like playing Astra. I play Miyabi, Seth, and Yanagi. That's easily my top 2 or top 3 favorite teams in the game. I'm always talking about that team. The team that Mo was playing was Miyabi, Trigger, and Yanagi. And Trigger's fucking up the rotations, right? She's there for the stun. Trigger is fucking up the rotations because, just like I told you guys before, it's an uncontrolled variable for the shock. If you trigger shock at the wrong time, you don't get your freeze, you don't get your disorders, it messes up your rotations or combos for Miyabi, and it makes you have to pay attention a little bit more than what you're already doing. It's a lot. Now, that was my rant in regards to like high level play or like the higher level plays and things like that. But I want to make it very clear why Miyabi is in a tier of her own and why she needs to remain in a tier of her own until we get another character, basically until they clone Miyabi or they make a character so strong that you can like press one button, get Hugo damage, but do it infinite. Ridiculous. If we were to continue in a tier 0.5, for the most part, all of the main DPSs stayed the same except Yixuan, which is great. Now, Yixuan being tier 0.5, I do want to point something out that I talked about earlier, where I said when Haramasa originally came out, I know for a fact he was not in tier 0.5. If I'm not mistaken, he was tier 2, maybe tier 3, and we had to work and convince Prydwen to bring Haramasa up to tier 0.5 and give him an expert tag. He was tier 2, okay. So when Haramasa came out, he was tier 2. Despite at that time, Harumasa's damage output was on par or slightly below Miyabi. At the time of his release or their release, Miyabi had the strongest damage output in the game. Harumasa had the second strongest damage output in the game. And they dropped that boy down to tier 2 immediately because they said he was too hard to play. Nobody was doing the combos, too technical, needed to use manual chain attack, whatever. Tier 2. And now, after months, he's only in tier 0.5. His expert tag, which would only take him 1 tier above, only takes him to tier 1. And yet Yixuan comes out and she's tier 0.5 immediately, even though she's more technical than Harumasa. Once again, technical being the knowledge check that Yixuan brings, not the execution that Harumasa requires. Both characters are technical, just in their own rights. The reason I'm bringing that up is because she is 0.5, he is tier 0.5, despite them being launched or released with the same caliber of what's going on, which is just crazy to me to see it that way. But again, she has tits And that's why she's up here where she is. Yeah, ease of access with their optimal damage. Exactly. You know, and I don't know, that's a little bit of a biased thing in my opinion. I'm always going to try and defend Haramasa on that. Even now, this character is not tier 1.5. He out DPS's Ju. I don't know about the new Ellen. I'd have to double check on that. And his damage output is equal to or greater than Sanbi, especially when neither of them have their W engine. His damage output is equal to or greater than Sanbi. And this is before the expert tag even comes into play, right? So like it's very difficult for me to agree with that in its entirety. 0.5, we have Bernice. We talked about Bernice earlier with the Vivian stuff. I think Bernice is fine where she is, especially now that we've finally taken them away from the main DPS role and we've made a secondary or sub DPS role. Very good stuff. Lycan got a huge boost. We talked about that before, him being 0.5. This is nasty work. I need to look at why I don't even see the bump down arrow. Like maybe let's go look at that real quick. Maybe we can see that. Qingyi dropped from 0.5 to tier 1 with more and more meta DPS agents preferring an on-field playstyle. Ellen, this isn't true anymore. It wasn't true before, but it's definitely not true now. Miyabi, Yixuan, Anbi, among others. I do want to count among others. Hold on. On-field playstyle. We can count Miyabi. She counts for both, so I'll do 1 and 1, right? Miyabi 1 and 1, not Vivian, not Yanagi, not Hugo, not Evelyn, but she's kind of in the middle, right? She wants to be on field, but she's not a hog. She's not like a Sanbi. Ellen is closer to Evelyn when it comes to their like preferred field time. These two are very close together. Ju does not want to be on field unless it's M1. Haramasa does not want to be on field. Jane is on field, but you're not using her with Qingyi like that anyway, so it doesn't matter. Soldier 11 wants to be on field, but she wants a stun because that's where her damage output comes from. Anton is burst. Billy can be on field, he doesn't care. Korin is burst. Nekomata can be on field. So out of all the DPS characters that we've named, we have what? Nekomata, Soldier 11, that's 2. Anbi is 3. I said I would give Miyabi a 1 and 1, so she'll count as both. That's 4. Yixuan is hit or miss, but we can counter. That's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 5 out of 16 is it's not enough in my opinion. It's just not enough. I think, again, this is coming down to like a particular style of players literally not wanting to play the team, just play the DPS character. Like they just want to play, and I get it. I totally get that. Right? I get my favorite DPS. I play Ellen. I want to stay on Ellen as long as possible. You stay on Ellen on field as long as you can, and you don't know what you're doing, your damage is going to look like doo-doo. Your damage is going to look like ass. That is a tough sell, in my opinion, dude. There's a bunch of can be on fields, but who really wants to stay on field and have no on-field stunner? I wouldn't count that many. Well, that's the thing. It's not even just about having an on-field stunner, right? Because like Ellen can operate as both. With the new buff, Ellen can work with Trigger, which is her off-field stunner. She can work with Polka, which is her off-field stunner. And there's ways to work around that, right? Like to get what you want, to get the reward. At the same time, if you were to use Qingyi or Lycan or Lighter, because she works with that, you still get the reward from Ellen. So it's not about them preferring an on-field playstyle. It's more about the player. And at that point, we can just equality. That's really all it is. I don't even have to argue for Qingyi in tier 0, which I still believe Qingyi is still tier 0. But even without it, there's no reason Lycan is 0.5 and Qingyi is tier 1. And both of these characters fall under the same category of wanting field time to do the stun. They both have long animations or long enough animations to be able to stun something at the same time as swapping into a different character and doing a supportive move or doing your DPS. There's no reason Qingyi's down here and Lycan's up here. But I know why Lycan is here. That's going to be like, oh, because Ice DPS are, you know, top of the meta right now. I hear you. I really do. Qingyi is not tied to only Electro, to only Ice, whatever. Qingyi, the same way that Lycan was prior to us stucking off Ice characters, Qingyi worked as everyone's second best in slot stunner. And it's still the case for that. It just depends on if you want an on-field for the team you're looking for or you want an off-field. And as we looked at it, at most, there's only 5 out of 16 DPS characters that prefer Trigger over an on-field any of these other 3 units. Lycan, Lighter, or Qingyi. only 5 out of 16 DPS would prefer Trigger or Pulchra. I do believe it's still like a recency bias thing. And again, just play your DPS on field. That's all you want. So again, it's a preference. That's all it is. It's just a preference. Caesar being a support class character for tier 0.5. So there's two things that we need to kind of like pull up real quick. One, Nicole is not on the same caliber as Sokaku and Caesar. I don't care what needs to happen or what happens. Nicole is either up here, not because she's on the same caliber as Astra, but because she's above these two, right? So basically all I'm saying is that Nicole is in a higher tier than Caesar and Sokaku. And this is the part that I was gonna say, like, you guys are like, what, Io said that? I do agree that Caesar is up here now. Either if they drop her because Nicole stays in tier 0.5 on her own, that's fine. If she goes to tier 0, that's fine too. Caesar is 1 tier beneath Nicole. So wherever Nicole goes, put Caesar beneath that one by 1 tier, put Sokaku beneath that by 1 tier. And that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. This character with the new miasma boss or the new miasma effect mechanic coming into the game, the new enemy types that we have coming into the game, and the fact that miasma potentially, right, with the corruption ability that we have in the game now after you get hit by so much miasma and what could potentially happen in the future. Two things that I want to talk about potentially is her getting a rework. The second thing potentially is the different enemy types coming into the game. We can use Guzzlord as a prime example. Guzzlord has a lot of attacks, a lot of multi-hits that you can bring Caesar out, manual parry, or have her do a defensive parry, you know, cancel or do whatever, follow up into manual parry. So her defensive ability, not so much her supportive capability, but her defensive ability and then the supportive capability is really going to benefit a lot of players. And it makes way more sense now why they are trying to, or rather why they're rerunning her coming into the next phase here, which is really good. I like that. So Caesar being there, I'm totally for that. Sokaku, I've talked about this a couple times before. This character has been on the up and up for a little bit now, especially after Miyabi's release. Mono Ice is literally the strongest team in the game. It provides the most value for any player that goes out of their way to learn it. High reward, or what is it? High risk, high reward type of play style for the most part. Very good, very solid, very awesome. Sokaku has the ability to run multiple different disk drive sets. In particular, we'll talk about disk 6 just so that we can put an emphasis on the changes. Sokaku can run triple attack. She can run double attack plus AM, which is the most popular Sokaku build right now. And she can run double attack with impact. The impact is something that is very, very specific, but it's not so specific that it wouldn't benefit any team. Let's talk about it. Let's say that you're running Mono Ice with Lycan, Sokaku, and Miyabi. And let's say that you're getting too fast of freezes. You can actually get faster stuns by giving her the impact disc. No, this is not me recommending that. I'm simply explaining why this character and the build variety she has gone up and up and up. You don't have to do this. This isn't something that the average player is probably ever gonna do, but the fact that you have the option to do it and it's viable and strong is what's important. You can run her with Anomaly Mastery for anything, and it's really good. And the fact that she even without AM, she's gonna freeze, right? 1, 2, 3, fly the banner, she's gonna get the freeze off. It doesn't matter. So even without the AM disc 6, she's still achieving the job if you want her to freeze something. She's working, same thing with Lucy, right? Lucy was being more of a universal support, a buffer. Now, because of Sokaku and the fact that more players are reading the actual kit, more players are learning how to play the character, more players are revisiting the character, she is becoming a much better support universally for a number of different characters that are just looking for that little bit of a buff. On top of the fact, if you are using Lycan, which is free now, and you do play Sokaku, now you have the ability to freeze in teams that you otherwise would not have had the ability to do that. What's an example of that? Don't play this team, by the way, guys. I'm just using this as an example to explain what it is that I'm saying. Let's say you played Evelyn, Lycan, Sokaku. Again, I'm not recommending this team. This is just a raw explanation for the example. What Evelyn is now able to do is remain on field and get all the stuff that she wants. She still receives the attack buff from Sokaku. Lycan is going to give her the stuns that she, or even Qingyi, right? She's giving her the stuns, whatever the case may be. And you get the freeze. So you get all of the benefits of what you would from this character. You get the attack, you get the impact, and you're still able to dish out whatever damages you're looking for without taking too much of a hit. So that's a huge thing. So Kaku has earned her place. She's constantly climbed up in the meta in the tier list. That's good for her. Now we can go into tier 1. I do want to see why they dropped Ambi. I know why I would have dropped Ambi. We talked about it the last 3 videos. Also, let me read this too for Ellen, right? Ellen went from tier 2 to tier 1. Ellen is the first character whose kit has been directly modified by Hoya. It makes her much more powerful than before, as it's much more cohesive and has significantly improved her damage by giving her some fancy new attacks with high multipliers. In short, her new kit is amazing news for her, so we recommend you try her out and let us know what you think. This doesn't explain lickety split about why Ellen went from tier 2 to tier 1. Basically, they're saying the new attacks with the multipliers bumped her from tier 2 to tier 1. But had they done more testing, which I feel like they would have done this, and I would appreciate if they actually wrote out kind of like why they have Yixuan where she is. I would have appreciated if they wrote out a little bit more about Ellen and the new changes. What these new changes for Ellen, let's talk about it real quick. The new attacks for Ellen would bring her up to potentially tier 0.5. You could even slap an expert tag or a watch icon on her. She benefits from being the best element in the game right now, which is Ice, Hugo, and Miyabi, right? And now Ellen is brought up to that caliber as well. She benefits from Lighter thanks to her core passive change. She benefits from Trigger thanks to her core passive change. Lycan is already here. Mono Ice, just like it is with Miyabi. Mono Ice Ellen is very fucking strong. Even if you didn't run that and you wanted to run the off field like we talked about earlier, you can run, now you can run Trigger, Astra, and Ellen. That'll keep her on field a lot more, being able to dish out more damage and get her own freezes. When it comes to Ellen in particular, Ellen has a new move. Icy Blade is one of the new moves, which is very good. Icy Blade has a crazy amount of anomaly buildup attached to it that's really good for her, and it's automatic. You just do it after scissor cancels or your parries, anything like that, and she'll do Icy Blade. The second move is Glacial Blade Wave. Glacial Blade Wave has a crazy good amount, I won't say a crazy good amount, a decent amount of anomaly buildup, but it's got really good damage attached to it, right? If we were to max this out here to level 12, you can see the first hit 461, and then the second hit is 294, and this is a multi-hit attack on top of the fact that you're going to be doing this after, technically before, depending on the combo, but you'll be doing it after this. She also gets, where is it at with her core passive, because they changed that as well. She gets all of these damage boost. We'll max this out, 100% crit damage boost applied to all of her moves now, right? And it doesn't say it in here, but this also apply, well, I guess they wrote it in here, but it wasn't written in her actual in-game. It's not written in the kit unless they changed it for live server. But on CE server, this was not in the kit, so we didn't know about this until we tested it. It applies to everything. And the ice damage bonus, because of the core passive, boosts that even further. Not gonna lie, Ellen should have the expert tag now because you have to manage resources, the new attacks. Yep, you don't want to just mash with Ellen anymore. I mean, you shouldn't have been doing it before, but I agree with you. She should get an expert tag or some form of like, hey, learn the character, right? The character's a little bit more advanced now in order to get the damage output you're looking for. That's what I would expect. So even if they didn't bump her up to tier 0.5, giving her the expert tag similar to Haramasa, Yixuan, or Evelyn, I do agree would be very beneficial for a character like this. Zhuyuan is Zhuyuan, right? That burst damage is nasty. It's great. It's amazing. I love it. But I do believe right now Ellen might have a little bit of a lead against Zhuyuan when it comes to the team performance or damage performance. When it comes to Sanbi, let's talk about Sanbi's changes real quick. Oh, that's what I didn't finish. Just to briefly finish that with Ellen. Why I mentioned those moves being able to build up anomaly is because now, just like Miyabi, even though it's unorthodox, if you will, Miyabi is able to play both anomaly and attack type at the same time. Ellen, thanks to her changes, is able to do the same thing. You're able to keep the crit-based performance, the damage that you would get from the attacks, while also building into her playing on anomaly. Why would you do this? You would do this for teams that are not clearly using mono ice or even have Sokaku on the team, because her Shark Nami, now you're even, the new buffed up Ellen is more incentivized to use Shark Nami now, by the way, guys. So if you don't have M2 at M0, you're incentivized now. Instead of doing EX skill, basic attack 3, full combo, EX skill, basic attack 3. Now you're incentivized to do EX skill 1, EX skill 2, which is Shark Nami. This is gonna build up at least like, it's like a 40 to 60 something percent anomaly build up from the entire combo in order to get where you're looking for. Then you do Icy Blade, that's another 15-20% anomaly build up. And then she, you know, does Glacial Wave and kicks the blade. Basically, AM6 Ellen practically builds a full bar on her own. And then if you add or have another ice type character on the team, it's a guaranteed freeze every single combo. So this is really big for her because freeze stops the stun bar. Freeze allows her to, like, if they're frozen, you do your ultimate. The entire ultimate animation, which is very long, her chain attack animation, which is very long. Doing the entire thing inside of a freeze gives you all that damage. You keep the stun at the same place it froze, and then you continue the combo again, potentially getting another freeze depending on the energy you have available to you. And you can play with the off-field stunners. So now we can look at the changelog for Where's Baby Girl At? Sanbi. Now that in-game content stopped favoring Aftershock agents so much, it's become easier to realize S0 Ambi was not matching in performance to her peers in tier 0.5. Thank you. I said that when she came, multiple creators said this when she came out, that Sanbi was good, but she was not on the same level as the other characters in 0.5. She was, especially when Hugo came out. She's not on the same level as Hugo, and you don't have their W engines. You don't have Trigger's W engine. You don't have Sanbi's W engine. You're playing on average build or average stats. This character was not as cracked out as people tried to make her out to be. She was always a tier 1 character. She was just being favored because of the new Shiyu defense at the time. Yanagi was outperforming Sanbi, right? But to their credit, Sanbi is our first true sustained DPS. And it made players feel like they were doing more, right? When you have a character that's on field all the time and you're just watching the HP go down, it makes you feel like you're doing more than what you actually are. But in comparison to, let's say, you know, Sanbi's on the field for as long as she is and you smoke something, we'll give you like a 30-second DPS window or a minute, a full minute DPS window, right? And you're doing all this damage collectively over time. But a burst character, per burst, right? Let's say it takes them 10 seconds to burst. Boom. That's 35% HP gone through their one burst combo. The second one, now they got all the buffs. They get another 10-second stun. The second one rolls up. They got all their resources. Boom. That's another 50, 60%. 10 more seconds. Oh, all I need is another burst combo. You're dead. It's way easier to look at it from that perspective when you see it happening. Versus if I just gave you numbers, which is why I always tell you guys, like, do in-game testing, look at in-game results, and do the testing in-game for yourself, or get a friend to do it, whatever the case may be. Visually seeing the difference makes a huge change on how you perceive these things. To finish off what they're saying about the changelog, note that she will still remain really strong, which is true, I agree. And in fact, is one of the top DPS agents in the game. It's not really hard to be one of the top right now, but I'd say she's like bottom 5, maybe 6, depending on what's going on. Being in tier 1 means she is really good. Again, agree. Yeah, tier 1 is not bad. A simple look at who's in tier 0.5 and here's who's in tier 1 should picture why we did this change in a much clearer light. Note she hasn't become any worse though than she was before, which is true. She has not become worse. They're just now realizing a lot more about what other content creators and players were saying. But we'll be called elitist if we do that. Hey man, listen, having more knowledge, choosing to learn something in life does not make you elitist. That's like, honestly, dude, the way that I hear that and I visualize that, that's like calling a smart kid in class who actively studies because they want good grades. Bro, you're elitist. How dare you give a fuck about something that you're interested in, right? How dare you give a fuck about passing it? It's the same thing as when you're in high school, someone calls you a nerd because you're reading a book, or you get bullied or teased for passing with all A's. It's the same shit. Somebody's jealous, somebody's upset, somebody's bothered that you're doing something and they're not doing it. And this generation in particular, not everyone, of course, I just mean in general because it's prominent with this generation. This generation likes participation awards. They like the fact that, like, hey, I tried, so I deserve it too. Hey, it exists. This trophy is there. I participated on the team. I deserve #1 trophy as well. Even though I didn't do anything for the team, it's kind of like that. So it's a different story, right? We talked about Qingyi. I briefly talked about Lucy being in tier 1. It makes sense. She's just not on their caliber anymore. I know a lot of free-to-play players love Lucy, and some people value Lucy over Sokaku. But as I said, Sokaku offers the same attack buff, not the same amount, but the same buff that Lucy is bringing, Sokaku is bringing as well. Sokaku brings more to the table. That is Lucy's downfall. I've said that time and time again. While Lucy is an amazing free-to-play support, and a lot of people value her, I value her as well, she doesn't bring anything else. Maybe if the boars did a little bit more, the boars might be able to trigger burn off field. They might be able to build up burn incredibly fast, depending on if you use an EX skill or a regular skill, ultimate, whatever. Like each boar does a different thing. Maybe they inflict more stun. If they did more things besides just tick, 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 Lucy would be up here in tier 0.5, potentially on the same caliber as Nicole for a lot of options. Pan, I don't know a lot about Pan yet. I did not get to play him too much. Me personally, I don't think Pan was that good of a character. I think Pan is one of those characters that literally just buffs up Yixuan. And it's only because sheer force right now. Once we get more characters for sheer force, we might start seeing a little bit more, and we might see him in a similar position to Sokaku or a little lower. So being in tier 1, I think is perfectly fine. He's not weak. He's just not busted. Tier 1.5, we don't really have to talk about this anymore. We went over Harumasa. Jane is down here, even with Vivian trying to bring her up, or actually bringing her up, even with potentially playing Trigger or Astra on that team. We still don't have any physical weak enemies in the game. But I will say, Harumasa is stronger than Jane and Piper. So he does not belong in the same tier as them, even without the expert tag. That's a little weird. Pokra being in tier 1.5, I actually believe, especially M6, Pokra should be shooting up. This character is a tier 1 character by now. She's doing phenomenal work, especially for free to play. You have her W engine, you know, it's on the banner right now, and you could have potentially gotten it for free or whatever it was. Pokra works with a number of different teams, same teams that Trigger works with, Pokra works with. And Pokra also works with the anomaly teams. Jane, Piper, Miyabi, Yanagi, Bernice, Vivian. She works with them. She gets her core passive, activates a lot of their core passives. Pokra is a really good option. She should be in tier 1. She should absolutely be over here in Korin, Nekomata, Billy, even Grace if you wanted to do it that way. She should be in tier 1. This is not a tier 0.5 character or tier 1.5 character anymore. Rena being in tier 1.5 makes sense for the same reason that they're keeping Harumasa down here. Just a little bit more of a knowledge check, right? That's really all it is. Oh yeah, and Poker's really good for Yixuan as well. She's not the best, but from a free-to-play perspective, she gets the job done. And you add Panda on top of that, now you have physical anomaly, which is going to give you the flinch. Flinch builds up more days. Yixuan loves that shit, bro. That's a really good, that free-to-play team on the banner right now for Yixuan, really good stuff. Really good stuff. The last of these characters, what the was Seth always down here, or did they move him back down? Yep, okay, I thought so. I thought so. Tier 2, back down to tier 0.3. They're hurting me right now, bro. They're hurting me. Anomaly tag has been added, which is fine. Seth is moving to the niche power bracket because there are simply stronger options available compared to him in all possible teams. While he serves as a good replacement with anomaly characters like Jane, he is never the best in slot and struggles to find his place on fully built accounts. So we are dropping him down to the list of niche characters for this reason. We also added the anomaly tag due to his ability to reduce anomaly buildup res of enemies and increase anomaly proficiency of teammates, giving him a synergy with anomaly characters. I don't even feel like arguing this anymore, guys. I'm tired. I'm so tired of defending Seth from the same arguments constantly. Now, given the fact that I've been trying to hold very true to the Prydwen's mission statement, which if you might be new, right? Because we got a lot of new players. Prydwen's mission statement: all agents are assumed to be utilized in their full best 3-man teams, played without mistakes, using our standards, so their standards, for performance. And this is based off their tier list skill ceilings, the skill floor, or anything of the sort. So basically they're aiming for a tier list for casual / average players. And I've just come to the conclusion Seth is not going to get played by the casual or average player. Even with the usefulness he can bring to their account specifically, because the casual or average player is not able to brute force their way through a lot of content, and you should be learning tech in order to get, like, basically learn how to cheese your wins. Seth is perfect for that, but I understand them not wanting to do that. I'm not going to keep arguing for Seth anymore. Nekomata being in tier 4 and then Billy and Korn being up here, like, that's a little harmful. I do believe Nekomata is probably in the same tier 3 as them, but maybe they just needed a DPS in tier 4. I don't know. But I want to tell you guys, that's pretty much the end of the tier list. Did I miss anything that I'm not aware of? Making it faction and anomaly would be pretty good for him. Yeah, Kino, you're right. Absolutely. I'm going to need you to do a seminar on Seth. I already did one. It's on the channel. I'm not doing it again. We already got a Seth tutorial on the channel, but I'm not doing it again. So guys, that's going to be it for my video today. I know it was a doozy, but Prydwen added a new tier. There was a few different change logs and criteria that I wanted to go over. And going into season 2, which unfortunately I never got to do my season 1 wrap-up video. There was so much that happened in the last week. I wasn't here. I was away for DreamCon, and then Yixuan came out and the Miyabi thing. There was a lot that happened. At some point, I will do a wrap-up of like season 1, but I feel like it's a little bit too late because now we're into season 2. So maybe I'll do something like the beginning of season 2 and where I feel like a lot of characters' value is placed. You guys let me know in the comments down below. But as of right now, covering everything from their tier list, how I feel about it, the different placements, the different characters. There was a lot that I was able to talk through, which I'm actually very shout outs to my chat, by the way, guys, both on YouTube and Twitch. I was able to get through this without too many distractions, right? We didn't have a lot of arguments or back and forths. A couple questions were asked. I was able to answer those questions and give a lot of insight. And you guys helped me even think of some of the things that I wanted to talk about to help other players. And that's really all this is. So shout outs to Prydwen for doing their tier list. This tier list is, especially right now, I can see this tier list definitely helping out a lot of players, a lot of new players. Just keep in mind, not just from me, any other creator, like, do your research. I'm always telling motherfuckers do their research, bro. Go out and figure it out on your own. If I said something about Seth and like how that motherfucker is tier 0.5, go listen to AOG tell you why he's dog shit. Go listen to Kate tell you why Seth is a bad character. Do your research, get plenty of information to come to your own conclusion. That is what these tier list videos are for. That's what the tier lists are for. That's what content creators are for. Like, you guys are chilling, you're good. It's not a big deal. Don't even worry about it. Anyway, more season 2 stuff. Got all these videos for you guys to watch. I can't say my user outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Smell you later.